Welcome, everybody, to Tales from the Cage. We are back yet again with another local showcase. This time, we got a guy who fought so many times in the area, and I think everybody in the Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana MMA scene knows him. You've seen him fight. If you've not ever heard of Lloyd Carr, then you have not been around. I'm going to say that. Lloyd, how's it going?
Oh man, it's going good, man. It's going good.
So,
Like life after fighting is going good.
we're gonna start from the very beginning today. All right. So before you started fighting, you had a wrestling background, correct?
Right.
So how did that begin?
I started wrestling in middle school. I used to stay in Minnesota, so I discovered wrestling when I stayed in Minnesota. I actually discovered it by accident because I kept getting in trouble in school. So they was like, you got a lot of anger issues and stuff like that. So you probably need to come out and try wrestling. It'd probably be good for you. So I end up doing wrestling to stay out of trouble in school.
How old are you about?
About 13, 14.
Okay. Now, were you born there in Minnesota?
No, I was born in Gary, Indiana.
Okay.
I was here till I was about 5 or 6. And then after that, we moved to Minnesota for like 7 years. And then I came back to Indiana.
Did you get any fishing in there out in Minnesota?
Oh yeah, that's what I do now after fighting. So
Yeah,
yeah.
so that's the place to go is Minnesota anyway, land of
Yeah,
10,000 lakes.
yeah, that's when I started learning how to fish when I was up there, and then
Yeah.
that's what I do since that's what I've been doing now. My off time since I don't fight no more,
Yeah.
I be fishing all the time.
You do ice fishing or no?
Oh hell no, man!
It's cool. I tried over at Powderhorn a couple times on the border, but it was just too cold every time I would go out. It was freezing without a shavy or
Nah,
anything.
that's a little bit nah.
Yeah. But the only thing, like, if you could brave the cold, man, that's when all those huge pike and muskie bite, though. That's the thing. Like, everyone's pulling monsters out of those holes.
Yeah,
That's the only thing.
that's true, but you know that nah, that's a little bit nah, that's too out there for me
Yeah.
right there.
All right. So on paper, online, it has your first fight against actually, before we even get your first fight, how did you make the transition from wrestling to MMA?
Uh, that brings up Steve. Steve Cologne was my wrestling coach in high school. So once I graduated from high school, it was like I'm probably about to start. He was training fighters. He said he was gonna start training fighters, and I was like, what? I was like, yeah. He's like, I'm gonna do a little jujitsu, and then after that, I'm gonna start getting into training fighters and stuff. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm down with it.
Now, did he have his location at the time?
No, he didn't have no location at the time. We would just meet up at the place we called the dungeon. The dungeon is the like our high school sometimes didn't open the wrestling room up for us. So sometimes we had to go to his brother's garage. Uh we called it the dungeon. It wasn't that far from the school. So we ended up going there and that's how we end up getting off into MMA.
Now, was the team called Team Cologne at the time?
No, when I first started doing that, like I said, I was still fresh out of high school. So the team Cologne name didn't, it actually came from DeRay. It was kind of crazy. It actually came from DeRay. So DeRay came up with the team Cologne name one day because we was trying to figure out names and everything, and then there was like, "She just call it Team Cologne. You know who teaching us? We just call it Team Cologne." And
Now, who
that's
was
what
there first between you two?
DeRay knew Steve first. So
Okay.
DeRay graduated from Steve is DeRay's wrestling coach too.
Right, right.
So Steve graduated. Yeah, so DeRay graduated and I was actually at the rival school. So like when how I met Steve when I was at Westside. So I always used to come and talk to him, like, what's up, coach, and stuff like that, just talk to him. because I would always win. I would always win because they didn't have nobody in my weight class. So the 1 year that they did have somebody, the 2 years that they did have somebody in my weight class, like I ended up beating them. So it was like I kind of had a target on my back when I came to work because I beat everybody. But they actually turned out to be real cool. I'm still cool with them today. Floyd Moore and Raymond Hunter, I'm still cool with them to this day. Pretty cool group of guys.
Was there a like a tall sand hill behind like a grade school in Gary that you guys would do like runs up at that time?
I
You know what
didn't
I'm
make
talking
it.
about?
Yeah, Edna. It's at Edna, the hill at Edna. I never ran that one,
Okay.
but I did run the one in the Miller Beach. I ran that one
Okay, yeah.
with
Because DeRay
time.
took me to the one that was behind the school, and he said that that was like an old school place at Team Columbus
Yeah,
or
yep.
something.
That's called Edna Elementary School, I do
Okay.
believe, and that's the hill that everybody used to run
Yeah.
up. But I ran in Marquette Park, the sand dunes in Marquette Park. It's pretty rough back then.
Now,
I
so
can't.
was it the two of you, the first two there?
What, me and DeRay?
Yeah. Or was Maldonado there at the time or?
Yeah, Maldonado. So how it all came about, like DeRay and Steve, DeRay did a fight first. He did a smoker fight first. Once I found out that he did that smoker fight, I was like, oh, shit, I want to fight too then. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like he did it, and then I was like, bet I'm gonna do it too. So I trained and trained and trained, and ended up happening. Now the first generation of Team Cologne is me, DeRay, Joe, Lance, and Cantu.
Okay.
No, it was Cantu, and then Lance came along afterward. Then
Yeah,
Lance
Lance was a little
was
bit
part of the
younger.
group.
Was
Yeah,
that smoker at Active Edge?
yeah. Uh, I just know smokers at Active Edge. I know Chai used to throw them.
Yep. Yeah, in Lansing.
Yep, that was what we called it. Fights at Active Edge.
Right, right.
That's what we called it.
Yeah, I mean that's old school there, and those are always undocumented. I remember even Chai telling me, no records get posted, nothing, nothing. It's all underground. I mean, it's kind of like old movies.
Yeah, it's kind of like it gives you a way to hone your craft without it counting towards your record.
Right,
But we kept track of that though. In the gym, we
right,
kept track of that though. But yeah, learning that doing those smoker fights at Chaz was like is old school. It's kind of like what these gyms need nowadays. Like you just go, you got to build them up before
right,
you just put
right,
them out there. If a wrestler ain't never threw punches no more, putting them in Chaz against a person that's just started off, then you get them to be where you got to use your hands.
right.
And that's one thing that Steve made sure that we did do. We was real rounded in everything that we knew. You know what I'm saying? So most of us come from a wrestling background. My wrestling background isn't extensive as like the Rays, Lance, and Cantus, but Joe had a kickboxing background because Joe actually started at Active Edge.
Mhm.
So once Joe started at Active Edge and he found out that we were doing it full time, and he ended up coming over with us. But that's somewhere you want to go so you wrestlers can learn how to throw punches and kicks
Yeah, I
and
mean,
not necessarily
honestly, like
worry about the pressure.
without many people knowing that like the old school generation were wrestlers of Team Cologne, everyone thought you guys were just strikers only. But Steve was really one of the first local gyms to actually mix it up because you guys would go out and strike, strike, strike. And everyone's, oh yeah, they're boxers and they're kickboxers. Like, no, they actually have wrestling backgrounds too. But everyone would just assume if you're a wrestler, that means you throw one overhand and shoot, one overhand and shoot. You guys weren't doing
Yep.
that.
No, they wasn't, and I definitely wasn't looking for no shots or takedowns in my fight career.
Right,
I
right.
I could probably remember like a handful of times as an amateur. Now, when I was an amateur, I used to take shots all the time, but as I turned pro and I found out that you can get kneed in the face, I was like, yeah, nah, I'm not going. take no shots to get kneed in the face. But if you go back on YouTube and you look at some of my like first 4 or 5 amateur fights, I would always start the fight off with a big. I used to call it Matt Hughes slam.
Yeah.
And like if I get my hands and I let them connect, like you going for a ride. Like it's well documented. You go back and see. Like I said, my first 4 or 5 amateur MMA fights was one big pickup slam, and then after that, back to the feet.
So now on your Tapology website record, now all of them are missing some fights throughout MMA.tv and sure Tapology. It looks like this one was the earliest date I was able to find for a fight. I actually remember watching the DVD of this that DeRay let me borrow like way back then of the whole event. I was just watching all the fights. It was you versus Kevin Young. Was that your first fight for Fight Card Entertainment, or did you have some before that?
No, that was my first MMA fight. Period.
Okay.
First.
And like it'll say custom rules online on Tapology's website. So like if you're listening, you didn't see this fight. This was a long time ago. You guys had shin pads on. That was like kind of what gave the distinctive amateur at the time.
Okay, so actually that was level 1 amateur.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
So level 1 amateur, for those who don't know, is you could not throw punches to the face. You can only throw knees and kicks to the body, and you can only hit the body. You cannot hit the face.
And that was on the feet as well.
On the feet as well, yeah.
Okay.
On the feet, you cannot hit in the face. And which, if you know, is like that's crazy, but that's just how the rules was back then. And then it was level 2, and then level 3 was everything. So after my first like two level 1 fights, I had like 2 level 1 fights. After that, I was like, nah, I'm ready to go like
Right.
start punching people in the face. And then the very first my third, or was it third fight? I think third fight or something like that. And when I got to throw my hands, I knocked the dude out in like the second round, like TKO'd him in the second round. So it was very, very, very fun, but at the same time frustrating because it made you use wrestling. It made you use other tools than you just going out there and just swinging for the fences.
Right. Was that fight against Joe Chamberlain at Fight Card? Is that you're talking about the knockout?
Yes, the Joe Chamberlain fight, actually the Brian Oosley fight,
Okay.
that was that was the knockout, and then
Okay.
it was Kevin Young, Yang Zhang, Brian Oosley, and then I want to say Chamberlain was somewhere along the lines. I think Chamberlain was either after or no, Chamberlain was after Dexter or before Dexter, I do believe.
And that one doesn't come up on your record, Dexter, right? But I remember seeing the video of that as well.
Yeah,
It's just a
that's
different time
that
when
was
there
amateur.
was no commission to like automatically put everything online.
Yeah, that was amateur fight too.
Right.
So that that's
Um,
my, that's my brother now. That's my brother.
right. So that Joe Chamberlain one gets you a title shot, amateur title shot at Fight Card against Christian Reynoso.
Yeah.
Is that a fight that you ever wanted back after? Have you ever attempted a rematch of that?
Oh yeah. Mostly when we was amateurs, I wanted a rematch. And then when I found out he turned pro, I was like, yeah, I wanted that rematch. But after I look back and and I look at it, like I didn't like him for like nothing in the world
Mm,
because I felt like I won the first round, and then second round he caught me in a triangle, and a part like when he caught me, I tapped, right. So what the part of the video don't see is he kicks me. Like he's trying to like let go, but in the process he kicks me. He like kicks me twice to like get me like to I guess to get out of his guard or whatnot. But he
mm,
kicked me, and once even the referee looked like, "Why did you just do that?" Like
yeah.
I think it was more of just him being young and not really understanding like what that did. But I didn't like him for a long time, long, long
Yeah.
time. Like anytime I see him in a fight, like I wanted to fight him. Anytime
Really?
I seen him, yeah, I wanted to fight him. But now I done plenty of fight card matches with him. So we done did commentary together, like
Mhm.
nothing but the best for him, man. He's
Yeah,
got two boys. He's got two boys and his wife, kids, man. Nothing but the best for him now. You know, as you get older, you kind of like when you get grown, you like, ah man, it was a misunderstanding. But
right,
at the same time, I had to let him know, like, hey, you just can't do that to me. You know what I'm saying? Like you beat me, but like you just can't kick me like that and
Mhm.
get no type of reaction from me because like where I'm from, like I play by a different set of rules. So it's like I be kind and respectful because it's a sport at the end of the day, but I don't take no disrespect from
Right.
nobody.
So most of your fights are at Joe's on Wheat Street at this time, and then you go to the Hammond Civic Center, very first C3 MMA event against Brad Funk. I used that video of that. I actually am the one who did the video.
No, that wasn't yeah, the Brad Funk fight, that was crazy.
So now,
He
what was the
ended
fight
up
kind of like going into a bigger venue with like the balcony? And I mean, that place was huge. Like that's the venue of this area.
right, but I had fought in like Cicero Stadium before.
Okay.
So I fought at like the bigger venues and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. It was
Yeah.
real crazy. But before then, like before that fight, like before the Brad Funk fight, uh I had known about Funk and I knew he was a good jujitsu guy. Like I seen him fight like a couple of fights before, and I was like, oh, okay, that'd be what'd you call him? So when they called me, I was like, yeah, let's do it. Same thing was getting better of him on the feet, go to the ground. He ended up popping my elbow.
I remember that. Yeah, I
So
remember Jeff Neal and Brian Bishop. No, there was Brian Bishop asked because he saw me with the video camera there, and he's like, "Hey, if I throw you $50 and you get my fighters on video, so we could have them." Yeah, no problem. That's actually I had so much footage of back in the day, whether it was videos that people gave me or videos I took myself that I just don't have anymore, and I'm like really regretting not saving all
man,
that
that's
stuff.
over
I mean,
with.
there was just so much,
Yeah.
so much. I would go. That's how I would get into most. Like I was working for Braulio at the time, so I was, but like even like TFCs and everything, like I would video there. That's how I would get into these events. Like, hey, I'll get you video if I could get in a ticket. And man, and that was before as before cell phones took video. So if you had like a professional camera, like you were rare. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
they was letting you in. They
right,
was letting
right.
you
As like a big shoulder one, like it was a nice one. And yeah, I had so much stuff that I just don't have. So we're gonna go into your pro debut, as long as we're on the topic of C3 and cool venues.
Okay.
Horseshoe Casino, your first pro fight. It's against Mike
Yep.
Raymond, who was a crowd favorite at that time.
Yeah.
Um, I remember the fight. Why don't you give me your summary?
Okay. So when I first heard about the fight, it's like, yeah, he's like a brown belt jiu-jitsu and all this and all that. And at the time, I was like, oh yeah, okay, we'll see, because you got to see me on the feet. The fight gonna start on the ground. I mean, the fight gonna start on his feet. You got to get
Mhm.
me to the ground. So I was cool, pumped up. I was like first pro fight, ready to go. Like I was on like a whole different level. So I was like, yes, it's my time to shine now. I'm ready to go. So we go out there, right? I'm in the venue. I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, okay, this is pretty big. So this motherfucker go to touch gloves. He throws a head kick at me. He throws a fucking head kick at me. So I'm like, what the hell? So it's a picture I have still to this day. I just probably gotta find it. I go out to touch his gloves, and there's a picture of me going like this because I blocked the kick.
Mhm.
Soon as he threw it, I saw the kick coming, and I was like, "Oh, you dirty bastard!" I was like, "That's a hell of a way to start your pro career."
Right.
Only coming out, you already expecting them to touch gloves, and they throw a head kick. So I was just like, "What the hell?" But after that, once I see he was that desperate, I was like, "Okay, it's on." So.
Yeah, with him throwing a lot of kicks, I think he was just trying to get you to take him down off of him. Because he was doing a lot of
Yeah,
guard
that was
jumping in that fight and sitting down.
yeah, because that guy when he did that, when he was doing all that, I was like, buddy, I'm not coming down to the ground with you.
Right.
Like you're a brown. Like you gonna if you get me to the ground, you gonna earn it. Like get up.
Yeah.
And then he didn't.
Were you
I
frustrated in that fight?
No, I was cool because I know I wasn't going to the ground.
Yeah.
I knew like I wasn't dumb. I was like, if I go to the ground, because I didn't have the MMA mindset that I have now to even like make an attempt to like now I go down to the ground with anybody, black belt, brown belt, it don't matter. Like I'm confident that two things gonna happen. You either gonna submit me or I'm gonna submit you. Because a lot of people don't know, but only people that's in my gym, they would probably vouch in it and tell you like I don't really boast or brag about it, but I have a decent jujitsu game. I just don't like to do it. Like
Yeah.
it's not. I didn't. I didn't. I didn't put as much time and effort and energy into it in the beginning of my career. Then
Right.
when I realized, like, oh, okay, like, okay, I need to tighten this up. So, yeah.
Now your next pro fight is back at the Hammond Civic Center for C3 again. My opinion, easily fight of the night. Yusuf Sight alive.
Oh man, that's the one I wanted back for a long time
Oh,
too.
I know. We'll get into that in a little bit too.
They're dirty bastard.
So
It's
that
crazy
fight,
because
you
it's like,
really hurt him badly on the feet. I mean, his nose is gushing. And the story of that striking exchange, from what I remember, is, and this honestly, Lloyd, you taught me a lot in that fight that I still like. I got my own school and we just started doing Muay Thai classes in the beginning of January. I mention your fight with Yusuf to my students a lot. Is they throw a leg kick, you're throwing punches, and you're landing your hooks on Yusuf and busting out. He kind of came out like he was I mean, he even had the tie shorts on. He wasn't a Dagestani at that time. He was a Thai fighter, and he would throw a leg kick at you, and you would counter with a hook and just bust him up really badly.
yeah, see, that's what we trained. I learned that. Be honest with you, I learned that from Saison back at Active Edge. They throw a kick, you throw a punch.
Right.
So if they go because they got to put that foot back down. So if my feet is already planted and I check it, or if I just eat it, I can come straight down the middle with that right, or I could check hook because he got to put depending on which leg it is, he got to put that leg back on the ground. But yeah, and then come to find out that he wasn't even supposed to be over here and all types of stuff. I was like, man, you find out a lot of stuff once you once the fight's over with and everything else. I'm like,
Mm.
man, he wasn't even supposed to be over. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, he
But
had
I
I remember his nose just gushing in both nostrils. Christian Uflocker's in his corner, screaming, swearing at him, "Motherfucker, take him down, motherfucker!" Just going nuts, and you're really, and finally he gets the lift. But man, that was one hell of a fight. Like that's the one that everyone was talking about after.
and you know what? That's what ended up making me like lose that fight because once I broke his nose in two different places, he was real smart because when he did take me down, he put his face over my face.
Mm.
So like blood was coming in my eyes, blood went down my thank God we did tests back then.
Right, right.
Blood went down my throat. So like I got a crimson mask of somebody else's blood.
Ugh.
And I expecting the referee to kind of like, hey, like, you see all this blood coming out, like at least stop, stop the fight, check him out because now all his blood was just on my face and my eyes, my mouth, so I can't see. So it's like this is it's kind of crazy, but he used that to his advantage as well.
Speaking of referees, I mean, and I'm not critiquing his refereeing at all, and I'm sure he was very impartial, but and not biased, but that was just at a time where there was no commission. So there was actually a member of the Uflocker Academy, Mark Sawicki, reffing an Uflocker fighter, which obviously you
Yeah,
can't get away with now. But you know,
right. But you know what? you know what? It's like you say, years later, certain shit come out, and it's like
Right.
really, because that wasn't the first time. Like I fought somebody that I found out that the other team dude trained with the other team, and he was
Mhm.
reffing.
Mhm.
Wrestling. What you call him had a fight like that with mine too. Jay Estrada. He ref one of my fights, but he ended up training with the dude before. But you know, Jay Cool, that's my boy.
Right.
He probably didn't even know that I knew this. You know what I'm saying? So it was
Right.
I forgot. Uh, when the fight come up, I'll let you know if that was him or not. But
Yeah.
Chase BB,
Okay.
Chase BB.
Or no, Carson. Or what?
Yeah, Carson.
Carson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Carson BB. My fault. Carson BB. He was the ref, and I
Yeah.
didn't know that he had trained and he had knew them. And I was like, "What the world? Like this is crazy." So
But you know
it's
what?
crazy.
I don't know if they
Yeah.
trained together that much because I think Jay was already gone when during that fight.
But he would still pop in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Streets be talking, man. You know. So afterwards, it is what it is. No hard feelings towards nobody.
Now you go down to King of the Cage, and it was in Indianapolis, and this was still kind of at a time when King of the Cage was like serious. Like, do you remember all the DVDs they would sell at Walmart and Best Buy and everything?
Yeah, that's what yeah, that was real serious because that was the only ones that was consistently doing pay-per-views too back then.
Right, right.
Like the UFC would have their pay-per-views, but it wouldn't be as consistent as, you know, King of the Cage pay-per-views because it was like every other weekend or every 2 weeks or every month you see another King of the Cage this, King of the Cage that. And it was real that was the UFC back then before the UFC took off the way it did.
You beat Darnell Davis, then you have another wild fight at the Hammond Civic Center. I remember being right at the cage for this. It was at Total Fight Challenge 17, Wade Choate. Flush knockout early on in the second round, and you had his nose gushing too.
Man, but see the crazy part is he fractured my nose in that fight.
Maybe it was your nose bleeding then. Was it
Yeah,
yours?
that
Oh,
was my nose that
okay.
was bleeding because I end up found out you don't blow your nose once it's broke off.
No, no. Uh-uh. So you did that afterwards?
I did that in between rounds
Oh,
and I
geez.
blood all over the place. And then when I got back to the corner, Steve was like, "Man, don't do that no more, man. Just let me bring it down or whatever. Don't do that because your eyes can
I was gonna
pop
say, were your
and you
eyes
could
swollen up?
No, no, no. Luckily, he just, just fractured a little bit. I got a little what you call him right here. That's from Wade Cho, man.
Yeah,
That was the king of the soccer kids.
yeah.
But yeah,
That that was a
he
wild
clocked
one
me.
too. Oh man. Um,
I was actually nervous about that fight because, like, he was tough, man. He was tough. He was real tough back in the day. Seeing him battle Elton Chavez and seeing him battle some
yeah.
of the people that he fought, I was like, man, that was a good. Sometimes it's better to be. Sometimes it's just your night, man. That was just my night because, like I say, he hit me, I hit him, and I just got back up. I didn't fall. He fell.
I used to have the Elton Chavez fight too, a long time ago on video. So your next fight, you take a little bit of time off. You fight DJ Sakura at Pinnacle Combat in Iowa. Do you remember how that fight was booked?
Yeah, that was booked through Mike Davis.
That's what I was guessing because
Mike
Harry, the
Davis.
promoter of Pinnacle, has always been close with us. He was
Yeah.
always calling us, asking, "Hey, do you have any fighters?" That's what I'm guessing. He's been a good contact, that's for sure.
See,
Um,
that was my first fight back off my injury that I had messed up my actually before that fight happened, I was supposed to fight at the Railcat Stadium.
we're gonna get to that.
Oh, oh my bad, I'm jumping, my
Yeah,
bad, my bad.
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that fight, that was my first fight back off of injury. I messed up my Achilles. So I was out for like almost like a year, but I just rushed back into it. Was doing real good, had a couple of flying knees, and then this is my Achilles heel. I got caught in a submission and ended up losing the belt.
So you know what? We'll talk about that right now. I was gonna do that towards the end. Railcats, HFC. Now, this was brought up on my podcast with Anthony Gomez. Was
I know it was. I know it
Did
was.
you? All right, all right. So like I said in that, me and Ray Flores walk in, and we see you on the treadmill, angry, like pissed off, like this is bullshit. I know I made weight. Their scales are off, and we're like, what's going on? Anthony and his opponent, Lupali, are off, and I'm thinking, all right, if so many people who are credible that I know they're going to make weight, like I said with Anthony, I'm like, I think it's probably best if somebody takes either a dumbbell or like a 45-pound plate, put it on the scale, and that'll tell you what it's off by. But I didn't want to get involved. It wasn't my show. But I remember this, and I don't know if you'll remember it because you were just like in the moment, and you finally make weight. And I don't know why I have such a vivid memory of this, but afterwards you go to grab like a Pedialyte or a Gatorade. John Cantu says, no, take this chocolate milk, and you're drinking that. And he's like, just don't slam it. Don't slam it. Just sip on it. You're like, all right. And you're just angry because the other guy insisted you would go back on the treadmill and cut.
Mm-hmm.
And Ray Flores tells you, I'm not making fun of Ray, but anytime I repeat anything that Ray says, I have to do his voice. He goes, Lloyd, try not to hurt him too bad. And you're like, oh, hell no, I'm knocking this guy the fuck out.
Oh yeah. What? Because the crazy part, right? I was like, Steve, I was just on that urgent. Like, I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, I was just because I had worked out earlier that day, and I did
Right.
my ritual that we always do. So we always do the day of weight cut, or like we call it weight cut day. We go sit in the sauna. If we gotta lose like a pound or however much we gotta lose, we go sit in the sauna earlier that day of weigh-ins, or the night before weigh-ins. We go sit in the sauna, and we leave either right on or like either right on or like maybe a pound or so off because you're gonna float like a pound when you sleep.
Right.
So I'm sitting there, I'm like, I done did everything I'm supposed to do. I actually cut weight the right way. I'm like, man, like gonna fuck this dude up. Like I'm gonna fuck him up. And then like I was cool. And then when I stepped on that scale, you tell me you had to run. I said, oh hell no. But what you did say was somebody ended up coming and putting a fucking weight on the
Okay.
scale. And they found out the scale wasn't fucking calibrated.
Right.
And I said, so I just did all that extra shit for nothing. I was so pissed off. Well, Ray wasn't lying. When he said
Yeah.
don't hurt him, I said I'm gonna fucking kill him. I'm gonna knock him. I'm gonna knock him out. Like that was my plan for that fight.
Now, were you ever? There was a few fights canceled. There was yours. There was Josh Shockley versus Yurima Surmat. Were you ever given an explanation on why they chose your fights or how they chose who was going to be canceled?
So what they said was it was my fight. Like you said, my fight, Shockley fight, my teammate Brandon Del Prado fight.
Who
So
was
it was
Brandon supposed to fight? Do you remember?
no, I do not remember. Only thing I remember is he sold a shitload of tickets just
Yeah.
like I did, just like Shockley did. So like combined, I know we sold it had to be close to like 700 tickets.
Mhm.
And out of three of us, we had to sell like close to 700 tickets. Actually, more than that because Mikey Welch was fighting on that card too. So our gym alone was so close to maybe like almost $600 worth of tickets from like just three fighters being in there. But it was the excuse was when they had a meeting and they called us in and they told us, we got to scrap three fights. So the co-main event and the main event can fight before the insurance runs out at
Yeah, at midnight.
midnight. We said, "What the fuck? Like we ain't never heard of nothing like this." So I talked to the dude I'm fighting. I talked to we all talking to the people that fought our opponents and stuff. And I was like, "Hey man, I want my full pay because we don't know what could have happened.
Right.
So you just offering me my show money and not offering the pay is crazy because now you have the pay money because you're not paying neither one of us no
Mhm.
win. So it was either we just end up getting our show money. I was like that is bullshit because I can't even tell you how many tickets I sold. And the crazy part about it is I still have people walking up to the gate
Yeah.
buying tickets. buying every, like I had people coming in on just mostly right up until I was about to walk out. They was still buying tickets. Like people was calling, my family was calling my family and letting everybody know, like, hey, we here. I walk out, I hear it. It's crazy. Now, if they would have did it before I was about to walk out, I would have been like, okay. But you let me warm up, get the crowd all excited, and I was about to walk out, and then y'all say the fight, you gotta scrap the fight. That's crazy.
Did your ticket buyers get refunds?
No,
Oh
ticket buyers did not get refunds. The ticket buyers did not get refunds, and Paul, I was so pissed. Now, granted, Paul and Danielle probably did try to make it right.
man.
They wanted to get us on the phone and talk to us and take us out to lunch and everything like that. But in my eyes, like the embarrassment had already happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you can't undo this.
Right.
Like once again, fighting in my hometown, like which is very rare that we have fights in Gary.
Exactly.
So when we do, I made it my business to go to make sure all my people was there. The whole city came out. It was crazy just for everybody to be like, what's going on? And then after that fight, I'm not gonna lie to you, I lost a lot of ticket sellers after that fight too as
Oh, I
well.
could see that.
Because they is now in their mind is like, oh, it says card subject to change. You gonna fight? So now I got my own family members asking me this, and it's like this is fucking a hassle as it is, training and getting ready for the fight, and then as a promoter, you asking me to sell tickets
Right.
for the fight,
Right.
which I never liked doing, and I stand on that. It's the promoter's job to promote the fight and get the people in the building. It's not the fighter's job to make sure they sell tickets so people can come and see them. If you promote the fight the right way, it doesn't matter who's on the card. If you've done it the right way and put the right people and having the right backing behind the situation, you don't even have to fund the card or even, pay fighters out of your own pocket if you do the sponsorship deals and sponsorship packages the right way.
Right. Okay, so your next fight after this is Jeremy Pender. They called him Judo Jeremy Pender at that time, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. He had an impressive record at the time, seven and
They
three.
called him Pony. They called him Pony Boy at the time.
Okay. Did he have a judo background? I don't know why I'm thinking of this.
I don't know. He didn't. I don't know if he had a judo background, but I know he good at jujitsu. But
Unless unless someone said it as a joke, but I definitely remember somebody saying that on Real Indiana MMA, unless they were
it was
just
probably,
joking.
it was probably joking around.
Yeah. Title fight, you win 1 minute and 33 seconds into the first round with a knockout. How did that go?
Okay, so um, shout out to my boy Eddie Jones down at Indie Boxing down there. He hit Steve up about the fight. And told me they was having this show, and I was like, "Cool, let's do it." Uh, so I really didn't know anything about the dude. So we get down there. So the weigh-ins happen, and then the day of the fight, right? So the day of the fight, I'm about to walk out, right? So he sees me in the back, and he just points at me and starts laughing. And I was like, "What the fuck? Like you must take me for a joke or something." So once again, that same thing you saw at the weigh-ins, that switch came on, and I
Mhm.
was like, I'm about to hurt this dude now. So go out there, feeling each other out. Uh, he steps in and does something, caught him with a right hand, put him on his butt. Then I followed up with a nasty uppercut while he was like down on his butt, but he had his hands posted up, hit him with a nasty uppercut, and ended up beating him,
So
taking the
after
belt.
that, I don't know if you saw my Larry DeGilio one. Um,
Yeah, I saw the Larry the Giglio one.
episode?
That
Okay, so
I wanted that one back too because when we fought, I don't know if he told you this, but I remember this like it was nothing. So this whole camp, right, man? So I'm getting ready for this whole camp. They like, he's a wrestler, 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 wrestler. So I'm going through the motions of training camp, going out there, like defending takedowns, all in practice, defending takedowns, defending takedowns. I get out here and kid you not, Larry turned into a world class boxer. He started lighting me up on my feet. I'm like, what the world is going on here? Like, it's very rare where I get outstruck in a fight. And I'm like, man, this dude is just like beat me to the punch. So like first round, I'm like, man, I get back to the corner. I tell Steve, I said, man, Steve, I can't. I don't know what, like, I can't, I can't get it going. I can't get it going like I want to. And then I look down. This is the time the HFC had those black mats.
uh
So the light was beaming off the mats was so hot that it had started peeling the skin off the bottom of my.
uh-huh. Yep.
So I had blisters like on both of my foot by the end of the first round. So second round and third round, I couldn't push off. I really couldn't move like I wanted to because like every time I step, it's like, man, it's like this is these blisters are like busting open. So like by the third round, by the end of the night, I had to take both my feet up, and that's what happened after that. Like that mat, I don't know if you remember that, but that mat was hot as shit.
I remember it from other events. So like I was telling Larry, I didn't know I was cornering them. They never asked me to, they never, So if I knew I was going to corner anybody, I would have shown up like as a professional. I was drinking all day, man. And like I don't anymore. It's been like 8 years. But like it's like reasons like this is why I don't drink anymore. But like I show up just like stumbling in like a cartoon character, like, hey, you got to go in the locker room, you're cornering tonight. And I'm like, what? Like I embarrassed myself so much that night, and I told him like I don't really remember the fight at all. I just remember people telling me how like not necessarily during your fight, but just I was walking around. I think I went into Lance Serma fought that night, and he was getting like interviewed, and I jumped in his video and I'm hugging him. And I was just like, see, this is why I can't do this anymore. but all right, so you do that fight. Your next fight is against Jake Constant, who that was his pro debut, but he ended up having almost like about like 20 more pro fights after that. Did you know anything much about him before that?
Nah, I didn't even know he was a pro boxer either. I was like, the shit you find out afterwards. So another
Mm-hmm.
fight, I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking like wrestler, 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 wrestler. Nobody tells me, Paul or Danielle, no, neither one of them told me, oh, this guy's a boxer. Like he had a couple of fights already boxing. And I'm like, okay, because he didn't make his debut that day. That was like his third or fourth fight. He was like, I want to say 4-2 or 4-1 or something like that. And I was like, okay, another thing, expecting a wrestler to come out. And then that fight, I was just actually it's kind of crazy. I was watching that fight with my son the other day because my son is like big into me fighting again, but I'm like, I don't know. But he was like, Dad, you got dropped. I was like, yeah, son, I know. I had left my mouthpiece, my custom grip mouthpiece
Mm-hmm.
at home by accident. So that day of the fight, I had to get a boiling bite and like put it in the microwave in the back at the place
Yep.
and throw it in my mouth and then go out there. And then after he dropped me that first round, I was like, oh hell no, I ain't even about to try to rush up in there with this mouthpiece again. Like I'm just gonna pick my shots and then pick them apart. But he caught me in after he rocked me, he jumped a guillotine and he put all he had into the guillotine, but he couldn't do it. And then we ended up getting into a scramble, we ended up taking my back. And it's a moment in the fight. Certain moments in your career you never forget, and it's like one I'll never forget. So he's on my back, and I'm fighting the hooks, and he's trying to go rear naked, and I'm shaking him down, shaking him down. So I ended up spinning him, and I ended up throwing him off me and throwing him on the ground. once I did that, like the crowd went like crazy,
Mhm.
and then I hit him with like maybe like 7, 8 punches on the ground.
So after this, you have a few fights out of town. You're fighting down at Coliseum Combat, win the belt over there. You fight some Michiana Fight League ones. Then you come back to the Hammond Civic Center against Eric Vo. Um, was this fight? So I'm trying to think because I was a matchmaker. Were you already fighting at 145 at this time? Because this fight was at
I
45.
was bouncing, yeah, I was bouncing back at between 35 and 45 then,
Uh-huh.
but because I had fought short note, it was like I think I want to say it's like a short notice fight.
That's kind of
Mike
what
hit me
sounds
together.
familiar about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like no, like short notice fights, and I was like, I made sure I kept my weight in between. Didn't get back then. I made sure I didn't weigh no more than like 60 or 65, so that weight cut wouldn't be so crazy. But yeah, I ended up like another Midwest tough guy right there is Eric Bo. Like he had never turned down a fight. I actually saw him fight in Iowa the same night I fought Sequoia.
Yeah.
So I was like, I kind of knew already. I said, man, this may be a guy I end up crossing paths with. But I didn't know like later on, like I would end up crossing paths with him that soon as it happened.
Right. So we got him through Harry Maglaris, who was
Right.
Pinnacles. That's Pinnacles guy over there. That's who that's who would be my contact, you know. And that was
Right.
another thing, like how Harry would reach out to us. It was, hey, do you have anyone at this weight class? And he would throw me some names back. You beat Jeremy Pender again, this time in a 5-round decision. And then the
Hey,
fight that
it wasn't the same Jeremy Pinder though. That's
oh
what was
really?
nah, it wasn't the same Jeremy Pinder. Like he had it in his mind that
Oh, I thought you meant there was a different guy named Jeremy Pender. I'm like, hold
no,
on.
no, no.
Oh, okay, okay.
He wasn't the same. That first one, when
Yeah.
he was laughing at me and didn't take me for serious, he took me as
Uh-huh.
a joke. That second fight, he had a whole different game plan, whole different everything. But I was actually, if you ask DeRay would tell you I was losing that fight. But I was, in my mind, it was 2-2 going into the fifth round.
Uh-huh.
So 2-2 going to the fifth round. I told Stephen DeRay, I was like, hey, I'm going for the gusto in the fifth round. Like I got to. Like I can't leave it in the hands of the judges. And then I just went out there and I just grinded it out. But DeRay was like, man, he lost that fight. He lost that fight. And I was like, man, nah, I won, bro.
Yeah.
Like and I kind of told him, I was like, hey man, I'm the king of Kokomo, baby.
I
They
mean,
can't
the
take
judges
nothing.
agreed with you.
I,
A very big fight right after, just a few months later. Um, I match made this. It wasn't originally supposed to be you. It was supposed to be Miguel Torres versus Dennis Dombrow.
Yeah, then Don Russ
Something.
pulled out the fight
Yep.
to go fight for somebody else, which I fought him too before.
Uh-huh.
He caught me in a arm triangle. It
Yeah.
was some slick shit I never seen before, so he caught me in that. But I told Mike that I said, "Hey, that fight's not gonna happen. You might as well give me that fight." He was like, "You fight Miguel? You used to train with him?" And I said, "Man, I want the name on my resume.
Right.
Like, I'll fight him. It's like it's no, he's no, he wasn't. Was he the WEC world champ when I was trying to fight him? No, he wasn't. But he he's a name. You know what I'm saying?
He's still Miguel Torres. Yep.
Yeah, he's still Miguel Torres. And like I tell people, when I first turned pro, you can ask Stephen Duray. I said it was 5 fighters that at one point in time I think I was gonna end up fighting. I said Jason Tabor, there was a wrestler from Portage.
Yep. I remember him.
I said then after that it's like, man, I'm probably gonna have to fight uh, Elton Chavez. I said I'm probably gonna have to fight Eddie Wyland at one point. But this time he had went to WEC, he had went to the UFC. I said Miguel Torres and I said Jerry McMahon. Because
Mhm.
at that time, those was like the guys at the weight class. If you wanted to be somebody, at some point in time, you had to go through one of them to establish a name for yourself.
You know what's funny? So we're talking about Dennis dropping. I'm thinking, why did he drop out? So I actually I messaged him yesterday about a grappling thing I'm doing. So I'm like, all right, he's right up in the top of my inbox. I'm gonna scroll. I just look. It was a fractured right hand. And Lloyd, I'm gonna tell you, man, like as a matchmaker, the worst thing I could ever get is a message from a fighter on the card without me messaging them first because it's always, "Hey, I have some bad news." It's never like, "I need more tickets" or "I can't wait for the fight." Like if I'm not starting the conversation and out of the blue I get one of them pop up, I'm like, "Oh shit, what is it?" I'm like afraid to open, and it's always something like that. Like that
It's
would give me anxiety. Like just even just like, all right, do I click this? Like. But no, yeah, man, you saved that. That was
it's crazy how people won't keep it real. Like he didn't have no fractured right hand. He took another fight for another promotion that was paying him more.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know why people just don't tell the truth
right.
because if you look on what you call him, you'll see he had another fight scheduled around the same time.
My
So
favorite was a coach pull. I won't say who, but a coach pulled two of his fighters out at the same time, saying that they were grappling and they both bumped heads and both split their own heads open. I'm like, all right, whatever. You know what? So,
oh, that's some
sure.
bullshit.
Like, all right. So we're gonna go into a more of like a reminiscence part, speed round. Um, so this is what I was gonna bring up, like the HFC thing with the canceled bout. But another incident. Do you remember a story? I wasn't there for this, but I heard about it a long time ago. That I think it may have been Mike Welch who was supposed to fight at Atlantis Gentlemen's Club, Babes and Brawls. And they said, all right, here's his
Yep,
opponent, so and so. And it was actually Mike Pickett using a fake name, and you approached him. Is this true?
yep.
Can you tell
Yes,
us?
that is absolutely fucking true. So like I say, back then, I scouted people back then because I knew at one point in time, for me to be the man, I have to fight these certain individuals at 35. So at that time, Pickett was like an up and comer, but he was fighting nothing but tomato cans. So I'm like, I saw him fight. Like, this is crazy. Like, Indiana is really so small. So, like, for him to even try that was like retarded. Like, I saw him fight. And when I saw him fight, I was like, that's Mike Pickett. He used a different name.
Mhm.
And this crazy part about it is like, if you have a tattoo, it's distinctive.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like I know your arms. You got them tatted to the what you call them. You know
Right.
what I'm
Right.
saying? So it's like if you have a distinctive tattoo, it was like I know who this is. And then I approached him and I was like, hey, he said the same. I said, man, damn, you kind of look like Mike Pickett who just fought like a couple of weeks ago when I was at the show. And then he looked at me and he was like, huh? That's not, I said, pull your ID out. He didn't pull his ID out. I was like, nah, man, you want to fight somebody, you can fight me. You're not about to fight my little brother. Like, what are you doing? Like, how can you go from, but see, what you call him was like that too. Brad Funk was like that too. He had an iffy, like, amateur pro career like that too.
Mhm.
But that's another thing. Like, he fought pro,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
then he
I
turns
was
around and fight me amateur.
right, right.
And I'm like, that's kind of crazy as hell. But see, people don't think I know this type of thing, but like I do. Like, but I never brought that. This is the first time I'm bringing that up too, because it's like if I bring it up and the promoters still had a fight and they still let it happen, it is really on the promotion at that point. But
Right.
that wasn't the first time I stopped a pro fighting one of our amateurs. Another guy was about to fight one of our fighters, and the crazy part about it, he fought DeRay when he was an amateur. So once again, distinctive tattoos.
Mhm.
I know these things. So Steve Conley tried to fight one of our amateurs, and I was like, bro, you can't fight him. You're a pro fighter, bro. Like you're not about to fight. I had to tell Steve, I said, Steve, he's a pro fighter. He's not about to fight this dude. Like it's like what type of shit is this? Because he was pro. And then like his coach got in my face and pushed me. And then I pushed his coach back and I was like, man, if he gonna fight somebody, he gonna fight me.
Was this
And
Chad Wagner who did?
uh, Chad Buckley, yep.
Chad.
Chad,
Oh, okay.
Chad,
So
Chad.
I just looked something up. The website is, I mean, the domain name is still up, but it's a porn site now. I accidentally went to, my phone's probably full of viruses, but now from a second ago. But you're saying that like people have distinctive tattoos. I mean, honestly, Steve Conley has a distinctive look. Now, I don't know if you probably never even
How
heard of
about a Sailor Man? How
it.
about a
All right.
that's what that motherfucker look
They there
like?
was a website back in the day called uglypeople.com. I just tried to go on it right now and it took me to a porn site, but they used his picture as their like logo. It said
Yeah.
uglypeople.com and it had a picture of Steve Conley.
How about a sailor? He had the head, the little funny ears. He
Yeah,
had even had little arms and stuff. But it was
right. Yeah, no, he had a very distinctive look. He actually had like a some condition where he can't sweat either. Like he doesn't have like sweat glands or something.
yeah, because he used to fight in the compression shirts a lot.
Yeah,
So when
yeah,
he fought the Ray in a compression short. But then when he had his first couple of pro fights, you can't wear those shirts.
right, right.
So what he tried to do was fight as amateur with the shirt on.
Hmm.
And I'm like, nah, bro, like you can't do this. Get out of here with this. That's why a lot of people didn't like me because I wouldn't have I was a student of the game back then. Like I watched a lot of fighters. I found out a lot of fighters' tales. I found out a lot how like I say, I kept track of everybody that was from 145, from 135 to 145, even on some 55. Because potentially I was like, I don't know how long I'm gonna be at 35 if I gotta go up. Then I want to know who I gotta go through to get where I'm trying to go.
At XFO at the Copernicus Center, Yusuf Said Alive fights I fought I think like a Donald Hoover
Christian,
guy. You go in the cage after and call him out unannounced. He was very upset in the cage. Did you get any like negative feedback from anybody from his camp or the promoter or anything, or was that all just fine after?
no, that was all. It became I became a problem in shows now, and I'm like, okay, he beat me. I want a rematch.
Uh,
Like, there's no other place but to go get in a man's face and be like, hey, let's run it back.
right.
If you felt like you could beat me once with ease, you should be able to do it again. Let's run it back, you
Mhm.
know? But nobody that ever fought me and like didn't ask for like that 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 beat me didn't know like, oh, I could beat Lloyd again. Because I didn't ask in certain fights before.
Mhm.
And then they was like, no, he's not interested in this fight. He's
Yeah.
not interested in that fight. So but then he triangles Christian Reynoso in the jiu-jitsu competition. That's the crazy part. And
Yeah.
I was there. I was there when it happened. You can ask Christian. And I was like, I was there when it happened. And I was like, I saw him catch you with that triangle.
Uh, yeah, no, he's definitely solid. You had a rivalry online with James Porter. Care to tell us what that was?
Oh, same thing. Talking because him and his coach, like I said back then, like when he was like hot shit back then.
Uh,
So I'm like, you can't be hot shit because I'm still here.
uh,
So we were supposed to fight, and then he ends up pulling out the fight. So I'm like, okay, cool. He pulls out the fight. And then after he pulls out the fight, him and his coach get online just talking mad, crazy shit about me. And I'm like, you guys pulled out this fight, not me. And by him staying where he's staying, I never like how me and you stay in the Chicago, Indiana, Chicagoland area. We can bump into each other
right.
either in shows or anywhere. It's okay if we can bump into each other. But see, you're staying like in Waterloo, Indiana, or some other damn place down there. It's like no place that I ever think about going. So I was like, when I see him, like I told them this like years ago. I said, hey, when I see you. I want you to have that same energy face to face. Because if you say what you saying to me online, you say it to my face, I'm gonna slap the shit out of you. And I guess he must have thought I was joking and I was playing. So years went past, and we was down in Kokomo for a fight. And I kid you not, this is the first time I ever seen this kid in my life, like face to face. And he fought somebody from, who did he fight? He fought somebody from Fight Card. And I was like, I told dude like, hey, he only got this, he only got that. Just watch out. I think he fought Mike. Was it Mike Long? I think it was Mike Long. And I was like, I'm going after the fight. I talked to the promoter, and as soon as I got in the building, the first thing he said, "Do me a favor and don't say anything to, don't beat up Porter before he fights." And he was like, if you beat up Porter before he fights, I'm gonna have to throw you out the building." And I was like, "You got my word, man. I'm not gonna mess my man's fight up. He's fighting somebody I know." I was like, "I'm not gonna do that to him because I respect him."
Mhm.
So I'm like, when this shit is over though, I'm I'm gonna go in the cage and I'm gonna see what he's talking about. And he said, as long as you don't put your hands on him, as long as you don't, as long as it ain't no, as long as you don't put your hands on him, I'm cool with that. And I said, cool. So after the fight, I said, all these years you done talked all this shit. Now I'm sitting in your face. Say everything you said to me in my face. Now that we face to face. I said, well, September, the next show, I said, me and you for the belt that I never lost. Me and you for the belt. And he was like, okay, cool. Because see, I never lost the belt in Kokomo.
Mhm.
So ended up reason how Porter ended up even getting the belt or getting a shot at the belt was because of me. It's a picture online if you go back or you ask Mark Slater to send you. Like I made that fight happen because he kept running his mouth. So it was like but he tried to tell me like uh he did tell me he was in a dark place when we first was about to fight, like he was in a dark place and all this and all that. And I understand people deal with depression and people deal with their own demons, but like at the same time, like you said all these things. Like I'm supposed to know what you're going through in your personal life.
Mhm.
And I'm not trying to hear all that because now when I'm in your face, I want you to keep this same energy. So the fight ended up was supposed to be happening, but I ended up hurting my back. I ended up pinching some nerves on my back, and the fight had to get called off. So in my place was Jeremy Pender. So Pender beat him and broke his arm. That and my replacement, he broke his arm. So that fight was like well documented because he just kept running his mouth.
Mhm.
And even afterwards, I'm like, hey, I'm healed up, let's go. Even then he was talking crap. So I'm like, you talking crap? And I was a man and I came to you like, hey man, I know I asked for this fight and everything, but I hurt myself. So whenever I'm able to fight, we can do it. Starts getting online, bad mouthing me again. So now I'm like, okay, like I haven't seen him since then. So it's by next time I see him, I will slap the shit out of him, man.
Oh man. All right, so it's still going on.
Yeah.
Next, I don't know if you remember this or not. This obviously wasn't a long rivalry. It just lasted like maybe 30 seconds. Um, we're all at Bourbon Street. That's a long time ago, maybe 2010, for an event. And me and Lance Sermo have always been really close, especially at that time. I haven't seen him in forever, but we're in the back somewhere, not in the locker room, but just kind of in that second room where I'm sure people are
Hmm.
drinking. I look over and I see. I think it originally started with Adam Ward and Brandon Del Prado getting in each other's face. And then you're up in there and you guys look like you're all about to fight. And I'm like, oh shit, I don't know what's going on. I yell to Lance, I see him, I'm like, hey, I point and like we kind of like break it up. Like it looked like there was something go like and Lance grabs you guys, I grab Adam Ward. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like I try to break it. Do you remember what started that? Or was it just alcohol?
alcohol. Adam was drunk. Adam,
No, no.
yeah. Hey man, hey, he's going through some real shit right now. So hats
Yeah.
off go to you,
No, no,
brother.
yeah, you know what, Adam,
Hope
when
you
his
speedy recovery.
his brother passed, and then mine, and I was close with his brother, and then mine passed about a week later. So we were kind of going through the same boat at the same time, and we were on the phone with each other a lot, just kind of sharing how to grieve with it. It was like both of us, it hit both of us like almost the same week.
Yeah, but he was drunk and then he said something to one of the people we was with, and then Brandon heard him, and then Brandon was like, "Hey, bro, like don't talk to her like that." And then, but back then, like if I see one of my see, I'm older than Brandon and I'm older than Lance,
Yeah,
so if I see one of my little brothers like about to have a confrontation, like I'm automatically gonna step in as big bro.
right.
So it's like, if we would have had to fight, we would have fought that night, but it would have been it'd been crazy. But nah, like I said, I wish Adam, like I know he's going through some stuff right now.
Yeah, yeah,
So like, hey, my prayers going out to you, brother.
yeah,
Hope you heal up and you know praying for you, brother.
yeah. Um, Toughest teammate of yours to either spar or roll with that team clone of all time? Who do you think like gave you the most problems?
We get only DeRay because he's so tall. If we were the same height, I'd fuck him up every day. But it's something I tell him too. Like once he see this, he gonna know I'm telling the truth. Like, um, him on the ground, him striking, Lance and Mikey with wrestling. It was like, man, it was just crazy. Back then, like we pushed each other to be better. Like back then we didn't have no egos. We just all wanted to get better. And I think that's what was stopping some of these younger fighters from developing the way they need to because of their own ego. Some of these fighters, we didn't think we were better than we were. We knew we were getting good training. We never once put our teammates down and never once looked down on each other. We was there to help each other build up. So like with me and Lance, it was hey, I'm gonna help you with your striking, you help me with my wrestling.
Right.
Same with Mikey. I'm gonna help you with your striking, you help me with my wrestling. And then, with DeRay, hey, help me with my striking, help me get better. He was just out of all the people, he was like one of the ones that he would help you, but at the same time talk crap to you at the same
Right,
time.
right.
What makes you like, just want to punch him in the face every chance you got. But
Back in the day, I'm sure most young Team Cologne people don't even know this. You guys had a distinctive walkout clothing. It was the Adidas tracksuit with the Team Cologne logo. Do you remember who came up with that?
I want to say Steve. It was Steve that came up with that. I do believe it was Steve because I forgot what he said where he got the what you call him from, and it was like we used to get those title books back in the day.
Hmm.
So well, like you could only order the stuff out of like Title,
Right.
Tap Out, one of those type of magazines or books. And he was like, "Man, we need some shield." So he called it like our shield. So
Yeah.
we once we put that on, it was like, "Hey, it's go time."
Right.
And
Um,
we was the first to do it.
yeah. No, that's old school Team Cologne. That, like I said, most people now are like, "What are you talking about?" But yeah, no, that's a long time ago. But
Like I still got my first pair of MMA shorts he got me. It was Sprawl. And I still got the sprawl hoodie with the pockets in the inside and like the little iPod zipper. Like
yeah.
I still got that one too. It was like, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Who would you say the most exciting national name that you've ever gotten to train with over there would be? Because there's been a few UFC guys that come through the doors. For you, who is the most exciting one?
Well, the most exciting one I can't lie, it's like you said, it was a plethora of people that used to come in our gym that was on the bigger shows. So it kind of like inspired all of us. But my boy, the Damage, man, my boy
Yeah.
Damage Elkins. Like, man, he pushed me so much. Like, and shout out to my boy Bilal Muhammad. You know what I'm saying? The UFC 170-pound champion. Shout out to you. But yeah, definitely Darren, man. Definitely Darren. His work ethic and his work pace is like it's like impeccable. Like he does because Darren does. I love Darren to death. He doesn't have a slowdown, but it's
No, and you
all
know what? Really good guy. He doesn't forget where he comes from. I was just telling my grappling coach today, Mark Lehman. I was up in Wisconsin earlier about Elkins because
that's where he went to school at. He went to school up there in Wisconsin. I forgot what school, but I
Wisconsin
know.
Parkside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he went to school up there.
One of Mark Lehman's black belts is Darren's coach, Chris Holdsworth. So that's kind of how we started talking about. I told him, like, I'm like, Elkins has always been a good guy. I'm like, I've known him forever. I'm like, he's one of those people where he could be, even if he became the most famous fighter that there is, he's not going to forget his old friends back here. And that's what I always liked about him. I was just talking to him maybe like 2 months ago. I sent him a pair of boxing gloves. He's just a good guy all around.
Yeah, I talk to him every now and then. I know he about to get back. When he in training camp, I really don't hit him up or text him as much. So
Yeah.
I just let him focus on the what you call because when Darren's locked in, like he's locked in on like a whole nother level. And like I got to train with him for like 2 years straight, like nonstop. I was one of his main training partners. And like that guy is just unbelievable. He'll give you a shot off his back. He's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Lloyd, it's been a good interview. I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey man, quick question for you.
Yep. Uh-oh. I'm getting in.
What was the dude name with like the super muscles that was at G2? What was his name? He had like the implant
Okay,
biceps.
no, he wasn't from G2. He's from MTC. That was Kevin
Oh, he was
Stockdella.
okay, okay, okay.
I thought he was from G2 before I went there. I saw him and I'm like, those are the guys that they have over there. Like, what? That was when I was about to go there. I'm like, what the? But no, he was from MTC. But yeah, Kevin
I used
Stockdella.
to get you two mixed up a lot
Yeah, yeah,
before he did the implants. Like that's like your Doppler twin or
yeah. I
something.
know what you're talking about. Yeah, I remember seeing him at like at he was in Jason Guida's corner at the Hammond Civic Center.
Yeah.
It's like
They did when he fought Terry House. I was like, oh
yeah.
my God, this damn arms pop off.
Yeah, that's funny.
Hey, so you coming Terry House, DeRay Davis, they out there. You should hit
Yep.
them up. They got good stories to
Oh
tell.
yeah, no, I plan on it. I'm gonna try to do this almost every weekend as long as my schedule allows.
Hey man, I'm glad you still, doing it, man.
Yeah,
You like
yeah.
you
I'm
putting
in it
in
for
work.
life, man. I'm in it for life. I got my school. I'm promoting a huge grappling event soon. I've been hooked and I'm never turning back.
Hey, if you ever want me to come out and teach them how some striking moves, let me know. I got you.
I'm in, man. All
Got you.
right, Lloyd, have a good
Hey,
one. Thank you
one
for
more
coming on.
thing. One more thing I'm about to
Yep,
drop real quick. It ain't over. It
good.
ain't over. Be on the lookout soon for fight news coming soon.
There we go. Hear it from
I'm
Lloyd
out.
Carter himself.
All right, but
All right, man. Have a good night.